Hello everyone! So the Rose series has officially come to Atelier Roslariana JP with the release of Chapter 9, and they are absolutely gorgeous. We have Valeria and Liddy here as the first two characters in the Rose series, and I'm going to go over all the details on them, give you my opinions, what I think they're good for, just how beautiful they are, everything. They're fantastic. If you watched my video yesterday, you may know that they're the first two in a series of 6 units, which will be released over the rest of March. We have silhouettes for the rest of them. They are Heidi and Suelle for sure, probably in the next banner. Then the last one should be Flock and Fierce. I'm super excited for Fierce personally, so I already put some gems onto the Valeria banner because I love her, but I'm not putting any more because I like Fierce more. Really excited for that. But yeah, these units are awesome. They look fantastic. They have great style. I love them. And yeah, just super hyped for the rest of the month. This banner is ending in early April. So that means we have over 30 days of free daily pulls on this one. The next one will be coming in like 10 days. That one will have like 3 weeks of daily pulls, and the last one will be normal. But for this first one with Valeria and Liddy, over 30 days of free daily pulls. It's absolutely great. And yeah, let's just get right into the units. First, I'll just look at the Memoria. It has great art. I love this art. They're super cool. And it's just a pretty standard physical attack statted Memoria intended for use with the new Valeria that gives a very large amount of critical damage when you unlock it. So if you get dupes of this, it's one of the better Memoria, I think, because this value on the crit damage is so high. However, as Memoria usually are, without dupes, they're just stat sticks, so, great art, but it's still just a Memoria at the end of the day. You're probably not getting dupes. Alright, so let's start with Valeria, Warrior of Rose. And Valeria is a strike attacker. First off, we'll go look at the Synthesis gift. She does have single target skill power on her gift. So, pretty good Synthesis gift. She is yellow-purple. This means that she links to Meru for double single target skill power. That doesn't really matter since we already have Reuven for that. However, she does also link to Christmas Resna. So you can go Valeria, Christmas Resna, and then something else, like Zapping Water or whatever. So if you don't have Meru, you don't have Toturi, but you do have Christmas Resna, Valeria is a good pickup for that. We are starting to get more skill power characters in the game, so we have more options for Synthesis, which is very, very nice. But she's not as good as Toturi in that regard. Oh right, she also does link to the new critical damage mat. There's a critical damage trait. That material is on purple, so you can go Meru, Valeria, then the crit damage mat on purple, and that will also get you double skill power and crit damage, so she is good in that regard as well. She sort of fulfills that same sort of role as Toturi there for Synthesis. So a very strong character for Synthesis. Now, how about her abilities? So it seems like every single Rose series unit is going to have this sort of like Battle Armor Schwartz Rose passive here, which straight up just gives ailment immunity. So ailments are the purple debuffs such as poison, paralysis, burn, etc. They're super annoying to deal with. And most characters until now, if they have some sort of ailment resistance, it's like plus 30% to one ailment. So like 30% poison res, 30% paralysis res, etc. This is just straight up immunity to every single ailment. And we should be seeing this on every single Rose character. Liddy has it as well. We'll see when the next one comes out if that holds true, but it seems like that's what they're doing. Very, very powerful. It gets rid of a lot of those little annoyances, and very straightforward. Plus, for Valeria, along with her skill 1, it gives her basically full immunity to any sort of debuff. Her skill 1 is effectively the same as Slash Valeria's skill 1, the other 3-star Valeria that we have on Global, where it removes debuff effects, the red effects, and also gives her an extra speed buff. So very, very strong effect for a skill 1, effectively giving Valeria full debuff immunity as an attacker. Very cool. And then we have her skill 2, which is a very like middle of the line damage rate for a skill 2 at 267%. So, you know, the gold standard is Ryza at like 450% or New Year's Mari at 500%, which are like kind of burst levels of damage rate. However, you know, those have no extra effects or they have downsides, so 267 is okay. It has guaranteed crits on it, 100% crit rate, so that helps a lot with its damage. It brings it more in line with most other attackers, especially on early turns where you don't have critical rate stacked up yet. And then all of this other text here has to do with her passive, her other passive, and I'll get into that. It is a little bit complicated. So she has a passive called Bloom Excel, and basically this is a stacking, ramping buff effect on her, where at different levels she gets bonuses. So like you can see down here, she has a bonus for level 3, a bonus for level 5, a bonus for level 10, and she also gets a bonus for each level. So it starts at 0 stacks and it goes up to level 10. And for each level she gets plus 10% crit damage. So at max stacks, she will get 100% crit damage. And then for these thresholds, she gets extra burst skill damage. So 50% burst skill damage for level 3, 50% for level 5, and 100% for level 10, for a total of 200%. These are all separate, so it adds up to 200% burst skill damage at level 10. So how do you level up this passive effect? Well, she gets a stack every time she kills an enemy, and then she also gets stacks for using her skills. So her skill 2 will also give 1 stack. And then for using her burst, she gets 3 stacks at once. So it's a little bit of a ramping damage effect, which in the past, like especially for characters like Meru, I've talked about how these ramping damage effects aren't usually that good in the game because you're trying to end battles very fast before they get the chance to ramp up, and also their payoff just isn't high enough. This sort of fixes it by having a fairly quick ramp time. Like if you're killing enemies, it's like 2 levels with skill 2, and the payoff is just very good, right? 100% crit damage, 200% burst skill damage, and it's on her passive. It's not required for her to be a solid character otherwise. It's an extra effect that makes her even stronger. So it's a little bit stronger than other sort of like ramping effects we've had in the past for a lot of characters. Overall, it's very, very, very good if you can stack it up. If you need to end a fight quickly before you can stack it up, her damage is going to be a little bit lower than even like Slash Valeria, but that doesn't make her not a super strong attacker. And in situations where you do have longer fights, where you are sustaining and getting that ramped up, you will be able to do massive amounts of burst damage through ramping up the levels on her passive. And then what does her burst do? Her burst is 450% damage rate, single target attack. 450 is a bit low. Normal burst damage rate is 500%, so 450 is a little bit low. However, because of the passive and because it has a 100% crit rate, it's going to be hitting like a truck. So as long as you have the passive ramped up, this will be hitting very, very, very hard, and you don't even need to invest in crit rate on your items or with like Lightning Resonant or something like that. It hits hard, it crits by default, so pretty strong there. We already went over, it gives 3 stacks of the passive, and then it also has one more effect, and this effect is something new that we haven't really seen before. It's a little bit complicated. When she uses her burst, she creates a time card on the timeline 3 turns in the future for this skill, a 4th skill. She has a 4th skill. This is basically just her skill 2, except slightly more damage. So it does the exact same things as her skill 2, 100% crit rate, plus levels on her passive, but slightly more damage, and it doesn't have a wait time. So it doesn't affect her other cards on the timeline. So she still gets the same amount of turns normally, except she also gets this extra one every time she uses the burst, which is really strong. You can sort of compare it to a character like Meru, who gets a huge speed buff and has a low wait time on her burst, so she gets another turn very quickly after using her burst. However, this counts as a normal turn, so it doesn't really end up getting her that many more extra actions, right? Because she still has her normal wait time on her next skill after. But this will be going into a consistent spot on the timeline, so you can sort of play around it. It's like, okay, I know I use my burst, I'll have her, skill 4 here, and it doesn't impact the other turn order at all. She'll still have her normal wait time. So very, very cool ability, a little complicated, a little hard to use. She is not super great at doing like quick burst damage, but she is still a very solid attacker overall. And I'm just going to show off her burst a little bit so it's a little bit more understandable. I don't actually have her, but as you may or may not know, on Japan there are trial battles for each of the limited characters during their banner run. We will be getting this on global starting with, I believe it was the Master Ryza banner, so about in a month or so. But yeah, this is a thing for every limited banner. You can just try out the characters. So let's go into here. It's just a little scripted battle that sort of shows you how to use the character. So we start with the burst. We can use the burst. We'll see the animation. It's super cool. Guaranteed crits. You can see right now Valeria has no buffs, so no stacks of her passive yet. But after we use this burst ability, she'll get 4 stacks, 3 for using the burst, and then 1 for killing the enemy. And then you can also see that it puts in the special time card for her 4th skill, right? So it puts it in right here, 3 turns later, and it's not disrupting her normal time card. So it's basically just an extra skill at no cost that she gets to use, right? So we're just going to take out this enemy real quick. You can see if I target other enemies, it's like still there, right? And god, her burst is so cool. Look at her, she's awesome. Kick. Bonk. And you can see right there the burst did about 12,000 damage because her passive is not stacked and the enemy was not broken. Oh, she actually got 5 stacks on the passive. Oh, does she get 2 every time she kills something? I might have misunderstood that. My bad. Or no, the first one is free. So she gains stack 1, then gets 3, then gets 1 for killing it. Okay. I misunderstood that. I haven't used her. Sorry. She got 5 total stacks. You can see by this V. So currently she has plus 50% crit damage and plus 100% damage on her burst. So very cool. And then, yeah, we just have these other characters. They're just here for fun, I guess. So. Alright, and now her skill 2. Or her skill 4, sorry. So we can actually choose to use either of these skills, but because this one doesn't cost wait time, you probably want to use this one. It is guaranteed crits, these will die. And you'll see this will go up to 8 stacks because we killed an enemy with it, so yeah. Plus 2 stacks on killing an enemy, 1 stack for using the skill. And then she gets to go again because this is her normal turn. So we will be able to take out this enemy. And you can see that the red penny inflicts burn, but she doesn't get it because she is immune to elements. Very nice. And we're also at 10 stacks now. So her next burst will be absolutely supercharged. You saw before in this little test battle, it did 12,000 damage. For this next one, it's going to be doing a lot more because she is fully ramped up. Yeah, about 73,000 damage. So, you know, just an easy 6 times more damage. Very, very, very good. I love her. She's awesome. Great character. Also our strongest strike attacker to date. Alright, so how about the other banner unit, Liddy, the Witch of Rose? And we'll just go over her real quick. She is a strike defender. And once again, she has that ailment immunity passive. And she also has a passive for taunt, like defenders normally have. And then a bit of a weird one. Whenever anyone on your team uses an item, she gains 100% dodge until she is attacked one time. So the next time she's attacked, it's a guaranteed dodge. Whenever anyone on your party uses an item, even if you use multiple items, it's still only one stack, and it can only trigger up to 3 times per battle, but it's still pretty neat. And that's kind of consistent with the rest of her kit. Her kit is very focused around sort of evading large hits, not really a like generic damage reduction sort of sustained defender like we've seen so far from a lot of the strong defenders like Sophie and Patty and Toturi. Those defenders are all good at taking, you know, lots of hits and healing themselves back up. Liddy is more focused around taking really large hits and ending a battle quickly. She does not really have sustain on her own. The only healing she has is her skill 1, which heals her for 15%, which is a pretty mediocre amount of healing. It's not really enough to keep her up after a lot of hits. You're really relying on that dodge from her passive, and then also some of the other damage reduction from her other skills to keep her alive long enough for you to end the fight. Her skill 1 also charges your item gauge by 10%. She is the first character we have that charges item gauge not on a burst, so that's kind of cool. However, Patty also charges item gauge through her counter skill indirectly, so there is another defender in this niche as well for charging item gauge. I think Patty also does it a bit better, but it is nice that it is an option on her. She also has her skill 2, which targets an ally and gives them 38% damage reduction until they are attacked twice, which is really, really big. Sometimes you might use this to target herself so that she can tank things better, but it's actually better potentially on your attackers so that they can tank area hits more without relying as much on area defense traits. Because for your attackers, you really want to fit as much damage as possible, and area defense traits kind of, you know, impact that. They lower your damage quite a bit. So in content with really high like DPS checks, but also really high incoming area damage, this skill is really, really, really good for keeping an attacker alive without sacrificing damage on them. It also gives all allies a 15% skill damage buff for 1 turn. This is a bit of a weaker skill damage buff, and we have some stronger like pure buff characters in the game, such as Toturi and the other Liddy. If it wasn't for us getting the ability to use multiple of the same character on a team in the future, I would say she's pretty bad because the other Liddy is just kind of stronger. But because of that, you can use them alongside each other. And extra buffs are always good. Extra damage buffs are always good. But you wouldn't really use her as your sole character for the buffing niche. It's a bit of lower battle value. It only lasts for 1 turn, but it is a nice bonus to have on the skill. So still very strong. And yeah, just the utility of being able to help keep an attacker alive without needing area defense traits is quite good. So pretty solid skill 2, I would say. And then her burst is a guaranteed, or sorry, it's for the next attack for everyone on your team, or sorry, no, for her, next attack minus 100% damage, so no damage taken. And for everyone else on the team, they take minus 100% damage from area attacks. However, because she has taunt, all the single target attacks will mostly be going to her, except for things that ignore taunt. So for most content, the buff that goes onto your allies that lowers the area damage they take by 100% is basically lowering the damage of the next attack they take by 100%. Sometimes there's things like counters and stuff that will go through this for everyone else. But for most stuff, her burst is basically everyone takes no damage the next time they're attacked. There's a few caveats here, but for the most part, that's what it is. So it's a pretty strong burst, I would say. It can definitely get you out of a tight situation, and it sort of fits into her niche of being being able to tank a couple very large hits, like near the start of a battle and end the battle quickly. She gives damage, she gives item gauge, but she doesn't have sustain. So that's kind of the big thing going against her. She also doesn't have any passive damage reduction like other defenders like Patty do. they have like, you know, a passive 20% damage reduction, 40% damage reduction, which really helps them tank multiple hits over time. So she's a bit of a different defender niche, and for that reason, it's a little bit hard to rate her. I would still say she's quite good. However, I think in the current meta of the game, she doesn't have a super strong place. She is still a good character, she will be a good defender, but compared to Patty, Toturi, Sophie, she's not going to defend as well for most of the content in the game. However, she is not like Aisha, she is still very strong on her own right. So, yeah. Very solid character, and I think if we get more very tightly tuned, very hard challenge content in the future, such as an Affinity Tower update, she may end up shining there quite a bit, especially in the Strike version. So yeah, she can be very good for that type of content where the damage output from enemies is very, very, very high. But overall, she's good, a little bit hard to place, is kind of my analysis of her. And I guess one last thing I can go over, if you watched my video yesterday on the half-year anniversary updates, you may know that we are getting leader skills in the future. And Valeria and Liddy are no exception. Valeria's leader skill is going to be Vanguard and 50% critical damage for Lantana units. Vanguard is something that makes the character go first in battle no matter what, no matter their speed. So very strong, 50% crit damage is on the high end for a leader skill based on what they've shown off so far, and that will apply to herself. So very, very, very solid leader skill there, giving herself a lot of damage if you use her as your leader. And Liddy's leader skill was plus 50% skill damage and break damage for My Pace units. My Pace is another character class. I think Valeria's in it, Liddy's in it, Corneria's in it, Oscar's in it. Overall, this leader skill has good numbers, but it's a bit weaker because of how niche it is. So it doesn't apply to as many units. If you have Val in your team, the 50% crit damage is probably a bit stronger damage-wise than the 50% skill damage from Liddy. And you don't really have any really strong breakers to take advantage of the break damage in that type, but maybe in the future we'll get more solid units in those types. I imagine they will expand, and we still have yet to see how the leader skills will really shake out in the game's meta in the future. But my current analysis before the feature is even in the game is that Valeria's leader skill is very strong for her, so pretty cool. And I think that's about it for these units. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy them as much as I do. They look awesome. I hope I managed to pull at least one of them in my daily pulls as the banner goes on. We do have over a month. And yeah, they look super fun to use. Wait, crap. I'm going through my entire ending spiel and I totally forgot. I need to add them to the tier list. Valeria's a strong attacker. Liddy's a good defender with basically no current place in the meta, so I'm gonna put them in like this. If you don't have other strong attackers, it can be worth putting gems into Valeria. Otherwise, she's more like here, because she is a very good attacker, but she's also not necessarily like so much better than everyone else that it's worth having her. And there are situations where like this Val is even better, so she's about balanced with the rest of the really good single target attackers. And yeah, Liddy, while being quite strong, there's just not content that demands her at the moment, so it's kind of hard to place her. Maybe in the future she can go up here or even up here. It just sort of depends on how the meta shakes out, but for right now, she is, someone good to have, but not super desired. So yeah, that's where I'm placing them, and we'll keep updating this as more units come out. I may shuffle some units around in the near future, especially because of a lot of the units are now in the permanent pool, but that's going to be like a rolling thing, so I don't think it has too much weight on what you should save for on global, but we'll discuss that more in the future. Anyways, now that is all for the video. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm just like super hyped for all the banners this month. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye bye.